Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Two Broke Gaijin podcast, the podcast about financial freedom and the journey to said freedom for both you and us. We are here in Tokyo, Japan. This is episode 3. And as always, my name is Eddie. Hello, everyone. And joining me on the podcast is my friend, my pal, my buddy, Aaron. How are you doing, good sir?
Good afternoon. How's it going?
It's actually a pretty good day today, I found, actually.
It's pretty nice. A bit overcast, but it's warm at least.
Yeah. I mean, because, earlier I was actually just, kind of wandering around Shibuya.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, it was a lot of people are active today.
I bet it's the last day of the holiday, so everyone wants to get out and get their stuff done before work starts tomorrow.
Oh, God. Work, yeah.
For us, too.
For us, too, yeah.
Yes.
But it was a good holiday while it lasted, I guess.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And it was just, I don't know about, where you are in your part of the town, or part of the city, but Shibuya was just beautiful. And also, I don't know if you're aware of, but today is Pride, actually.
Yes, actually, I was aware. I was actually invited by a friend to go today, but I had so many other things to do that I had to decline. That was in Shibuya today, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It was really interesting to see. There was there's so many people and parades going on and all that other stuff. It was very nice, actually. I got to see a lot of. One of my friends was actually in the actual parade, walking.
Oh, right.
Around. Yeah, it was really interesting. It was really interesting. I mean, it's one thing to enjoy a show. It's another thing to have a friend in it.
Right.
I don't know. I imagine a lot of our friends are gonna feel the same once they start listening to our podcast, and they're like, "Wow, I know this person."
Oh, God, I know that guy. Yeah.
You know,
there's another guy, and he's
yeah.
making a podcast.
But anyway,
yeah.
Yeah. Enough about that. So yeah, Aaron, what are we talking about today? What are we talking about this time?
I think we want to sort of lead off as we ended the last episode with mindset. We want to do this week. We want to do motivation.
Motivation.
What is our motivation? How do you keep motivated? And anything around that. Let's talk motivation.
Motivation. I feel like that's a tricky subject.
Oh, and it's a never-ending battle as well.
Yeah.
Motivation is one of those things that no matter how much experience you have, no matter how much money you're making, no matter how much you've got going on, you will always struggle with. At least I do. At least I always struggle with motivation. It's a daily fight.
God, I know exactly what you mean. I'm horrible with motivation. Because I feel like a lot of the time, and I think a lot of other people out there too that kind of want to get out of bed and do something. When they actually do try to do something, they kind of hit a wall or just get to this point where it kind of dawns on you that it's not as easy as you think it may have been. And then you just kind of lose a bit of motivation, and then you just kind of get to a point where you don't want to do it anymore.
Right. And you kind of start making excuses for yourself, and you start, maybe I won't do it today, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, or that kind of stuff. And you go down that sort of rabbit hole. Right. And that is a never-ending battle, as I said. So last episode, we were talking about mindset, which was more or less how you approach your problems and your world, and how you approach life in general.
Right.
And this is kind of the next step, which is once you get that mindset, once you're in that mindset, that kind of headspace, what is the next step is motivation, because it's from thinking about doing something to doing something. And in that gap is the motivation.
Right.
So Eddie, let me start asking you, what is your motivation? How do you find yourself getting motivated?
My motivation.
Yeah.
My motivation, like I said, I feel like that's a little bit tricky, but I would have to say, I don't know, I'm probably going to get a little bit of hate out there for this or whatever, but for me, I just don't want to work. Simple enough.
That's pretty simple.
I mean,
the motivation is the motivation of not working.
Yeah, I mean, call me lazy,
Which is kind of funny because motivation is supposed to get you working, and your motivation is not to work.
Right?
I'd like to dig deeper, see how that works.
Right.
So
I mean, call me lazy, call me whatever you want. Anybody out there listening to it, feel free to say whatever you want. But for me, it's essentially I don't know if you remember, but a long time, like a year ago, you and I had this conversation where it was about like just the amount of hours you work.
yes,
And I feel like you somebody who's working a lot for something might as well just not really have. Well, I mean, I don't like how can I put it? Because when you're working all of this time, you're working ultimately for a paycheck,
yes,
and essentially throughout that entire time, you are trading all of this time from your life to earn a specific paycheck. And when you go out to a store, a restaurant, whatever, in reality, when this is just my opinion, by the way, when you buy a t-shirt or you go see a movie or whatever, the medium of what you're using is money. However, in reality, it's the amount of hours of your life used to obtain that to get what you're ultimately buying in the end. So,
right.
I mean, just cut out the middleman. And if someone came up and is like, okay, you want this shirt, that's 5 hours of your life. Or like,
Yeah.
if you want this meal, then I'll give you this meal for 3 hours of your life, just gone. You know,
That's kind of what we're doing, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I don't like that idea.
Yep. So if you're on a salary, or you're working hourly, or you're working for a monthly fixed salary, and again, as we are in this boat too. If you're working for a fixed number, a fixed amount for a certain number of time or a certain number of days, that is essentially what you're doing. You're trading your time for money, and then that money for things that you need. So, for example, if you were to do a calculation, I earn X amount per month or earn X amount per hour, times that by or divide that by the rent that I have, and then you feel like, okay, I have to work this much time to pay my rent. So this time is devoted to my rent. This is before, you know, I take it out and go, you know, drinking with my friends, or before, you know, I buy that DVD or go watch that movie. This is how much time is given to just having a place to live.
Right.
Then you can kind of break it down in terms of how much time you're taking to do certain things based on the monetary amount.
Right. So essentially, my overall point in that is I feel like that's not really necessary. And, you know, because there's always like a lot of people out there that always say, oh, yeah, enjoy your time while you have it. Or, you know, it's best if you have these experiences while you're this age or whatever, the kind of thing. And I feel like the whole, you know, spending a vast majority of your life working in order to obtain something, I mean, I feel like that's unnecessary.
It's the whole triangle of time, energy, and money.
Yeah, no, it's very well put. Yeah, I think
so when you're younger, you have a lot of time and energy, but you don't have any money.
Right.
When you're sort of in your middle years, you have a lot of money and energy, but not enough time. And when you're older, you have a lot of money and time, but not enough energy.
Right. Yeah. Very well put.
So,
because I can't tell you. I mean, back in college, how many times I've had friends where they're just like, yeah, I'm working all of these hours, but I don't have the time to spend the money.
Right.
You know? So I feel like there is, I mean, again, like I said in the last episode, for anybody who really does love their job and wants to put in extra hours or whatever, that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing, I'm not saying there's something wrong with that, but I feel like for people who actually want to, you know, do as much as they can in life, I feel like they should take a method of, you know, think smarter, not harder, kind of a thing, you know.
And again, to sort of reiterate what we were talking about in the first episode when we were talking about what is financial freedom, to me at least, it's kind of doing a thought experiment on yourself. So no matter what job you're in right now, and no matter what you do now, if you could be paid, if all your money was taken care of, you didn't have to want for any money, you wanted to pay, you wanted to buy something, you would always have the money for it. What would you do with your time?
Right.
No matter, and if that's a job, so say you want to be a doctor, so I don't know, maybe you're working somewhere like, oh man, I'd love to be a doctor, then go be a doctor. If you want to be a pilot, go be a pilot. But what shouldn't dictate what you want to do or what you can do is how much money you have. And that's the idea of financial freedom again, to me, is no matter what, you can do whatever you want to do and not have to worry about the money.
Right.
The money takes care of itself. You take care of the money, but outside of that, you do whatever you want to do.
Right.
And that is true freedom. And so if you're in a job now and you love your job and you can think and all you want to do is the job you're doing now, that's fantastic. That is great. You're exactly where you want to be. You're getting paid for it. So perfect.
Right.
Kind of envy you there. But it's for a lot of us is we are doing a job not necessarily just to pay. Not to say we dislike our jobs, but we're doing the job primarily to pay the bills.
Right.
If we could be doing anything else but our job, we most likely would be doing it if we had the option to.
Right. Oh, and just to add on, because like I don't want anybody listening to this to get the wrong idea. I'm not saying that people shouldn't work or whatever. I'm not saying that I want to get paid for like no work or anything. I'm fully aware of that. I just feel like in order for me to actually have what I want, I don't need, emphasis on the word need. There's a difference between need and want.
Yes.
I don't need or shouldn't need to overexert myself to obtain the amount of finances just to have a regular life. Sounds that's not what I'm trying to say, but like essentially like I shouldn't have to do that in order to live paycheck to paycheck or something like that, you know what I mean?
Right. And this kind of comes back to a topic I'd like to get into a later podcast as well, which is having sort of activity.
Right.
What activities are getting you closer towards your goal, and what activities are getting you further away from your goal.
Right.
And that kind of, and the conversation around that, which is something I would definitely like to get back to.
Right.
But while you were talking, it actually kind of occurred to me that maybe the word motivation can be split into sort of two halves when we're talking about motivation and what gets us moving, what gets us, motivated to do what we do.
Really?
Yeah, I would say there's probably macro motivation and then micro motivation.
Oh, that's interesting.
So macro motivation being the big picture. And that for me almost never fails. It does flag sometimes, but it stays constant. The macro motivation is I want to get to this place, therefore I should be working to get there. I want to get to the point where I don't need to be doing anything else other than maintaining my finances and making sure that I have enough money to move forward without the need of a job, without the need of like a 9-to-5 or a 9-to-6 in our case.
Right.
So that's that macro motivation. You see a nice car on the street, you're like, man, I really want to get that car, and you that motivation to sort of start doing something to change your life, to improve your life, so you can afford that car. That's the kind of macro motivation. But the micro motivation is, I need to do something. I need to I don't know, set up a website for my business or for whatever I'm doing, and I don't have time after work, so I've got to do it before work, and I've got to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's the micro motivation. That's the in the moment, every day kind of step by step motivation. Getting up in the morning to try and do some extra work before your job. While you're on the train, doing some research on something that will help your business or help your investment, or learn something new. That's that micro motivation. Instead of, I don't know, playing a game or reading Twitter or Facebook or YouTube.
There's nothing wrong with playing a game. Come on.
There is nothing wrong with that, but this is what I'm talking about. It's motivation towards moving towards your goal.
Yeah. Well,
there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying that in terms of what you could be doing to better your life, I would say playing a game is probably less towards that than versus doing some research on a topic or learn about marketing or learn about sales or anything like that. Something that's going to help you in your own business or your own life or your own progression.
Right. I mean, like, because I feel like a lot of people out there, like they feel like in order for you to actually achieve a level of financial freedom, you kind of have to like sacrifice your likes. But I don't really think that's the case. Because like there are certain people. I mean, take a look at YouTubers, for God's sakes. I mean, it's pretty difficult as to like what they do in terms of creating content. But the whole thing is they were able to obtain, well, to at least some level of financial freedom doing what they love to do, which in, I don't know, vlogs and playing video games and stuff online or whatever. That's just how I see it.
Right. But see, you see them enjoying what they do, but do they?
Oh, you don't think they do?
I think that's not always the case. I think sometimes they've got to kick themselves to get out of bed if they're playing the same game over and over and over again. Like if you look at some of the streamers on Twitch TV, they're playing the same game for 5 years. I mean, at some point, I'm sure it must feel like a job. It must feel a bit like a job. But I think to your point, yes, they did. It may have started out doing what they love, but once money becomes involved and once they've found that it's very popular with their audience and they've got to kind of keep that up, that could be another form of work.
So like you think they kind of fall into a trap of focusing on numbers more than like their actual
exactly.
Exactly. Interesting.
I think that kind of happens with anything you do for too long.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Well, I mean,
but again, it's the motivation.
Yeah.
Which is how do I keep doing that?
Yeah. But yeah, so I said my piece. What about you, Aaron? Like what motivates you?
So it's kind of the same on a macro level. It's like as such I don't hate my life now. I actually quite enjoy my life now. But it could be better. It could be better.
Interesting.
It could be improving. And for me, it's the feeling of momentum. I love the feeling of momentum in my life when I'm on a project or I'm doing something every day, and it's that kind of like looking into the far distance and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That's kind of my motivation. Keep moving towards that light. But on a micro level, it's very difficult. It is very difficult. I find myself being in like flurries of activity. Some days I'm super active, I'm super productive, and I get a lot of stuff done. I set up a website, I do some research, I take a course or whatever it is. And other days I'm just, I wake up barely when I'm supposed to and get to work, and just kind of just float through the day. And it's like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, but it takes a toll. It can be mentally draining sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm actually honestly still trying to dial down micro motivation. I don't know if that's an actual term. It might be a term I'm just going, but I'm still trying to dial down the micro motivation.
Micro motivation brought to you by Two Broke Gaijin.
We
coined it
the micro motivation. We CFS we don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see if it's free at the patent office.
Yeah.
But it's that what keeps me putting one foot in front of the other to keep me going, and that I haven't quite dialed down yet. That is something that, I mean, you see it on Facebook and on Twitter, all these motivational posts and posters and all these pages and channels that are like motivation. It's like people. Now it's not just that, but you can see by the amount of stuff like that there is that everybody has a problem with motivation.
Right.
It's and even me, like Tony Robbins, his entire career, his whole success was built out of being a motivational speaker. And I don't think that will ever that's one of those sort of industries now that he's almost like the king of.
Yeah.
Which will almost never go away because everyone needs that push, needs that drive, needs that that extra kind of external force to give them momentum to move towards what they want to move towards.
Really?
Yeah, even if it's just like an inspiring speech, an inspiring song, something just kind of kick them out of bed and get to work. But it sounds like you disagree a bit. Is there
Well, I mean,
something?
like, I wouldn't go so far as to say disagree.
Okay.
I mean, I've had my own moments where I don't know, I listen to a song and then I feel, really, really hyped up and ready to get something done or something along those lines. But I have to bring this back to, because I like the idea of really, to go back to Seven Habits book, Stephen Covey mentions this within everybody's life, there's two specific circles that they work in, which one is external and then the other one is internal, to where the internal focuses on the influences. He calls it a circle of influence, is what you essentially have control over. And the outer circle being, it's just all the stuff that is external. And
Right.
to rely on the external is to say that you yourself don't have any control over your own feelings, motivations, wants, or whatever. To say that your motivation comes from an external source is that the same thing as saying that it's really your own desire or your own determination to do something?
I would say I see where you're coming from, and I would say that it's more that you have that motivation, but you just need. It's like a jump start. All it is a jump start. It's because once you get that ball rolling, you take over. Then you find out whether it's something you really want to do, whether you can keep it going, whether you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think the external force would just be a jump start. I mean, if you jump start a car, it's got the fuel, it's got the engine, it's got everything it needs. It just needs that spark, and then it's off under its own power. So I wouldn't say external motivation exclusively, but when you're feeling it's more when you're feeling like that lack of motivation, because most of the time, like I would say probably about 50% of the time, I come in and I'm focused and I get that kind of internal drive, but there are some times when you kind of need that external kickstart, that jump start.
Right.
Whether it's, sometimes for me it's as simple as as walking past an Audi dealer.
Oh,
There's an Audi dealer quite near where we are, and I walk past an Audi dealer, and I'm like, damn, those cars are nice. I would love to afford one of those cars. And I go right home. I sit down. I was like, okay, how the hell am I going to afford that car? I need to get to work. I'm in the middle of something right now. I've been flagging on it for the last 2-3 days. Let me pick that back up and get back into it, because I want to be driving one of those Audis.
Call me old-fashioned, but I would love me a good Jaguar.
I think this.
Just saying.
This could be the start of the spin-off car show podcast.
Right? But anyway,
yeah.
I see your point.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm coming from.
But that's very interesting, actually. I forget who it was, but there was like oh god, the name escapes me, and I read it somewhere. There's this famous he was either author or poet, I don't remember, but his whole method of getting that spark of motivation that you mentioned is that he would just go on just walks. Like every morning, he had like a daily routine where every morning he'd get up and then just go on a walk, and then just kind of like, I don't know, just go on a walk, look at things, look at nature or whatever, and then just that whole process would be enough to motivate him to start going into like new books or something. I don't.
Right.
The name escapes me. I'm sorry for if anybody knows who I'm talking about, please feel free to send it to me or whatever.
Yeah, please send us an email at twobrokegaijin@gmail.com. Also, we have a website up that is twobrokegaijin.com as well. And send us something on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that if you've got anything to add to the show. But especially if you remember that poet that Eddie's talking about.
Yeah, I don't.
We'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, the name it really does escape me. So
But no, I would
yeah,
say in general, it's definitely a mix of the two. It's definitely external and internal.
a mix, you say?
I would say a mix of the two. I would say it's mostly internal, but sometimes you just need that bit of an external spark to really get moving.
Mm,
No matter how small or big it is, you need that something.
okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like in terms of that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what about like one of those? Well, I mean, have you ever had like one of those moments where I mean, everybody has like days where you feel motivated to do something and you just feel a lack of motivation. But what about like one of those times where you feel like you just can't move on anymore? Not necessarily that you're like it's like you feel motivated and you're actually committing, but you just end up hitting like this, for lack of a better term, this wall or just this moment where you're just like, maybe I can't do it. Maybe this isn't for me.
Right. Yeah. This is not an easy subject to broach. Usually, it's
Well, yeah, but
yeah. It's
you know,
and if you're listening to this and you're taking this journey with us, if you haven't already, I'm sure you will run into into a situation like that, maybe
yeah,
more than once, where you've been trying and trying and trying and nothing's working. You've tried 10 different things and nothing's working. And it kind of goes a little bit off into another subject I'd like to cover in the podcast, which is failure.
I feel like I think that's,
That's
I
definitely
think
one
that's,
that's coming up.
yeah, I think that's really
Yeah,
important to touch upon.
it's what's
Yeah,
coming up. But before we do that episode, I want to just touch on this on that point. Is if you find yourself in that place where you've tried 5, 10, 15, 20, 80 times and it's not worked, you only fail when you give up, and you just have to, at least for me, this is how I see it, at least. You only fail when you give up on that, give up on that dream or give up on that goal that you've set for yourself. And the way I get through that kind of failure, that kind of it's not working for me, I've spent too much money and I've got nothing back and that kind of thing, is just as long as you're not putting yourself and your health in jeopardy, just keep pushing forward. Like almost my method is to almost disregard that kind of negativity, which is a lot easier said than done.
yeah.
A lot easier said than done. But once you've sort of reached that point, I get on the sort of devil may care kind of attitude where I'm just I am going to do that and I'm going to keep pushing and keep pushing. Now sometimes you do need to stop and maybe move on to another thing. And
Maybe like take a break or something, or
take a break maybe, or maybe shut that thing down and try another thing. And that level differs for everybody, I think.
right.
But if I actually look back in my life, this is a little bit of a personal story. If I take a look back in my life, I find that anything that I've really wanted to do, I've done.
What do you mean?
Anything that I really wanted to do, I've done.
Wait, what do you mean? You kind of lost on that one.
Okay, so there are things that like Japan. When I moved to Japan, that was like a core thing that I really really wanted to do. That I wanted that more than it was like the number one.
Oh,
I wanted that,
and then you just kind of did what you needed to do.
I did what I needed to do, and I just kept pushing, and got there. And when I think back, it's like when I really tried and applied myself, I did it.
Yeah.
Now there are some things that I kind of wanted, but when I look back, I go, I didn't really try to do that. I didn't really try to do that. Like I wanted to be a commercial pilot, for example. That was my thing. I love planes. I still love planes. I'd still love to fly.
Right.
Someday, but I wanted to be a commercial pilot. I remember back in the day, I joined the Air Force cadets in the UK, the Air Training Corps. For those of you in the UK, if you're listening, and you know, I had everything set up for me to become a pilot, but I never really tried. I went to the recruitment center. I went on the training flights. I did all that sort of stuff, but it never it never seeded itself, and it was never like this burning desire. It was something that I always loved doing, but it wasn't that burning kind of like, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to become a pilot. And I think if I had applied myself, I probably would have done it.
Yeah.
I probably would have done it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of have a similar story, but would you believe I tried to be an actor at one point in time?
Okay. This is a side I've not heard of it. Okay. Funny story. I mean, so did I.
Right. I mean, I was. Well, I'm not gonna. Whatever. Essentially, I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to be an actor, and the only thing that really that I regret to this day is exactly what you said. I didn't apply myself as much as I could have, because during that time I was always comparing myself to all the other kids that were doing the lessons, and I was always kind of, whenever I got like some criticism on oh, you could do this better, you could do that better kind of thing, I always took it like really personally, and I was like, maybe I'm not cut out for this kind of a thing.
Right.
And instead of pushing through and saying like, no, I can get better and I can actually do this, I got to a point where I kind of gave up, and I think that was the end of that.
Yeah.
I mean, because I took acting classes and all of that, and now I look back and I'm just like, wow, I really gave up, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not trying to say that I hate my life the way it is now. Like, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, like, that was a whole thing. My point being is, like, that was a whole thing I could have pursued if I really pushed myself and actually 100% went for it, you know?
If you had that, maybe it could have been, you had that motivation to go after that thing.
Right. But instead...
You had to push.
Yeah, instead, I just gave up.
Yep. It's a real test of character that once you hit that first road hurdle, are you going to give up or are you going to push through?
Yeah.
And then, there's going to be hurdles coming up 2, 3, 4 years down the line. Are you going to give up at the first hurdle? Are you going to give up the second? Sometimes the third? Sometimes the 10th, and then are you always coming back, or are you always, trying to hit that? And that's something that I've definitely learned, is that you have to push through.
I feel like
you have to push through.
I feel like that's one of the harder parts, though.
Oh, for sure. And it kind of, I think maybe we might do a part 2 of motivation as well.
Probably.
This is spiraled out into something quite. But that is definitely something we'll hit on.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's about that time.
Yeah, it's about that. Any final thoughts?
I would have to say very cliche, but if you really, regardless of whatever it is that motivates you, at the end of the day, I would have to say, just keep going. Don't give up. If you really want to do it, if it's really something that you want to go for it.
Absolutely. And Eddie and I started this podcast not only to share our stories with you, but for you to share your stories with us as well, and anyone else who listens to this as well, so we can kind of draw that inspiration and experience from each other and sort of move forward as a community.
Yeah.
So absolutely, if you've got a story about motivation or story about success or failure that you'd like to share with us, that as Eddie and I have shared this episode, please feel free to send it in to brokegaijin@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram now. We've got an Instagram as well.
Instagram.
So, 2 Broke Gaijin on everything. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're on that too. Just get in touch, share your stories, and hopefully we like to keep this as a almost like a forum as well. So if you guys want to reach out and share, that'll be absolutely fantastic too. But as always, thank you guys for listening. Please help out the show by giving us a review on iTunes. That really helps out, gets us seen, gets more people into this community. So it will help out you guys and us as well. So until next time, everybody, take care.